Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to get it going at a particular time. I'm going to make sure everybody kind of got in here. I'll cut off the sound here in the beginning in order to make the video properly. But I hope everyone's doing good this evening. And I want to welcome everybody to which is essentially the sunrise in Israel this morning, which in Eastern time it's 11:27 or was 11:27. So if you've been paying attention to the internet lately, especially the past week, it's funny because this information's been known for 6 years at least. There's been pockets of Christianity that have been going over certain aspects of through Stellarium and Google Sky and a lot of other great pieces of software, where they're able to find patterns in the sky that seem to match words that were in ancient books. And this morning, as the sun is rising in Israel, before it, you would have been able to catch Mercury, Mars, and Venus. And they're all in Leo right now. So that in itself is actually very unique, just by itself. And we should have heard something from modern astronomy from that alone. But as the sun rises, it will be on the shoulder of Virgo, and she will be essentially clothed in the sun. Now, Virgo, she is clothed in the sun every September. And with that comes the moon on its ecliptic will pass by that and will be at the feet of Virgo every month as well. What makes it unique, and this is what a lot of people aren't really realizing about what we may be seeing right now, is that the 3 stars in Leo, wandering stars, and a lot of people have some contention with that, but we know in this community that wandering stars was what the ancients called it until the 1500s. And it was perfectly acceptable. I mean, they look like stars, they just move. Mercury, Mars, and Venus, to be so close, to be all 3 within that, it's only happened a couple times in history. I have this amazing Excel spreadsheet where people have gone through and painstakingly looked at every single one of these dates and enlisted if these check boxes, so to speak, were satisfied. And so as the sun rises right now, you'll be able to see those 3. And we'll be able to see that coming up here this morning if you choose to be up at 6:27 a.m., whatever it is for you. For me, it would be that Eastern time. And just as we have, of course, Venus, the morning star, you're going to have Mars and Mercury is in the same lineup too, if you can see it, if it's clear enough. So what all the fuss is that we are hearing is that what I just described, minus the Jupiter issue, which I'll get into in a second, minus all that, it is connected to one particular Bible verse. And this is what we're hearing all the time. It's Revelations 12:1 and 2. And here is what it says. There will be a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon at her feet, with 12 stars upon her head. And she will be travailing in birth. Now, all of those other things I mentioned, some of them happen every 11 years. Some of them happen every year. The sun being in Virgo. The 3 stars in Leo, pretty rare. But the one that really makes this interesting is Jupiter being in the womb, because it's in retrograde in what we would visually call Virgo's womb. When you look up it, there's a I don't want to say Virgo's box. If you look up in the sky, or you look into Stellarium, you see over the past since November of last year, it's been in retrograde. Now, what's unique about it is the retrograde of Jupiter is usually 150 to 180 days on average. This time it did a full 260 days, which is 9 months. Now, it actually technically left the womb the other day on the 11th, which, well, we won't get into that. So if you have been looking at the internet lately, you find the mainstream media has actually picked it up. I saw it on Fox News. I saw it on multiple outlets saying, "Oh, the world's going to end on this day, derp to derp." And I've known about this for a long time, and I've actually studied it quite intensely. And I've decided to keep this to myself and among my friends and family, because I don't want. What I realize the most being out here on YouTube is everybody is essentially messing with everybody's reality filters, and they don't know it. They don't realize it. Everybody's messing with everybody's paradigms and axioms and worldviews and filters. And unfortunately, there are several groups who hold different positions as to pull you one way or push you another concerning what this means. The Nibiru people are holding on to it. The biblical literalist folks are holding on to it for obviously good reasons in their worldview. It matching up with Revelations 12 makes it so that this is supposed to mark the tribulation, the 7-year tribulation. And there really cannot be dispute about something that's written in this book and something that's happening in the sky at that moment. It's very difficult to dispute that. And I've had several people in my life who have been upset that I would even assert that this is even a possibility, that is not the whole of it, but that it's even happening, that there's something in the sky that matches an ancient book 2,000 years ago. It's offensive to atheists. I've had a couple get triggered about it. But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be an issue. This obviously is occurring, and the biblical literalist folks, they believe, the good Christian folks who hold that worldview, most of them, if they are good researchers and they have really committed themselves to this study, they come to the conclusion that this is actually one of the signs. It's just one of the signs. Now, there have been some who are like, is it rapture's happening right now? And you've got your pre-trib rapturist, your mid-trib rapture, your post-trib rapture. You got all that. And, you can get into doctrine and who said what and everything. And this is very, very complex. This is. It's taken me 6 months really to get a good grasp on it, because I don't want to mess with anybody's spirituality. I don't want to mess with anybody's reality filter. And that's back to really why I haven't spoken about it. And I want to make sure I'm quite clear. Read my disclaimer. I in no way am responsible for your reality filter. You must work very hard to cultivate it and prune it with the information you accept as being true or false. This takes discernment and requires a mental vigilance. All I am offering you is my perspective and information. If you cannot handle having your worldview potentially changed, then do not listen. Just leave. Shut it off, mute it, leave. I'm getting sick to death of people accusing me of doing something that I have no real power to do over somebody. All I ever came out here for was to converse about interesting topics with interesting people. It's amazing who you can meet on the internet, and I value every single one of the interactions I've had, even the bad ones. I've learned a lot. I'm not out here to make enemies, and I'm really only out here to make good connections with people who are at a particular level who I can converse with a specific way. Now, into the nitty gritty a little bit more about the different perspectives on this. The main one we're going to hear about is the biblical literalists. And Victoria, I love you, dear. I look up right when I say that and it says, kind of funny how all biblical prophecies are being fulfilled. I kind of agree with her to some degree. It is. It is very interesting to see because now there are reasons I could get into debating this, and getting into the nitty gritty of it, but I'm not going to. I want to just kind of lay out the frameworks of each of these perspectives, just so that people can get a grasp on what people are thinking. That's the whole reason I'm out here. I'm not selling fear. I'm not selling doomsday. I'm not selling end of the world. I'm not selling rapture. What I'm hoping to do, because I've studied everything from the biblical literalist perspective to the Vedics to the Hopi Indians to the Aztec and Mayans, even to the Gnostics, Kabbalists, and Hermeticists. This has been my study for the past 6 months mainly, but there was so much leading up to this, very synchronistic. Now, with the biblical literalist paradigm, as I explained, this matches up perfectly with verses 1 and 2 in Revelation chapter 12. Now, there's no denying that. And if you choose to deny that, you're intellectually dishonest. And I'm just going to say that right then and there. There are 2 verses in the Bible, and it matches up with something in the sky. Now, you can make other assertions as to why that is. I've even thought about it in a debating way, like, okay, well, Rome, they've known the movement of the stars since Babylon. They've had the charts at that high level of control. The Flavians, they were using Ptolemy's system. Of course they had the charts. Of course they could say, hey, look, we have this thing that happens every September, and then every 11 to 13 years, this happens. Oh, and holy shit, in 2,000 years from now, this is going to happen. This hasn't ever happened. That's going to be an interesting. Oh, Jupiter's the king. He rules with the iron rod. Hey, there we go. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened, but we as objective, skeptical individuals who care about the pursuit of truth and care about keeping your spiritual house in order, I think it's important to at least recognize those things. By saying something like that is not trying to defeat any other one. It's more of just information. I'm trying to get a better feel on why this may be happening. Now to jump over to, I had mentioned the Vedics. There's a really great website by Graham Hancock. Now, mind you, I don't support all of his work. Actually, I'm not very familiar with his work, but I came across something that he did with a Vedic cosmologist named Bibu Dev Misra, and they've calculated the ages essentially with the Vedic cosmology and astrology. And this was written in 2012, and it says the end of the Kali Yuga is in 2025, unraveling the mysteries of the Yuga cycle. Here, I'll put this in the chat real quick. Now, what it says in here essentially is that these Yuga cycles are essentially the cycles of the ages, and the Kali Yuga is the one we're in now, which is it is brutal, it is materialistic, it's authoritarian, and these things happen every 2,300 years, however they calculate it. When we look back in history, I mean, you could say it follows the procession. We went from Taurus into Aries, and there was some brutality in between that, and then we went to Aries into Pisces, and then of course over the past 2,000 years we've seen what Rome has done to the Gnostic church, the Gnostic Christians, the pagan Gnostics, the Chaldeans, the Essenes, the witch burnings. It looked like Rome was trying to stomp the light out over the past 2,000 years. That's what it looks like. But that's the Kali Yuga. It's supposed to be that way in the Vedic expression. And so what they say is that we are coming out of the Kali Yuga. And when this happens, time is tighter and tighter and tighter, and things get worse and worse and worse until finally something gives. And they call it the Satya Yuga. Now, the Satya Yuga, which is Satya, is the 1,000 years of peace. It's the golden age. That's what they say, and it happens. They are projecting based off of a revision of the systems and whatnot that it's going to be in 2025. What I find interesting about this, well, actually at the end of 2024, but you could, kind of, is quite close. What's interesting about this is 33 days ago, we had the eclipse, which was the light of the world darkened itself over the face of America, splitting it in two. I was saying that to be apocalyptic back when it happened. And I think I may have been too right, because we've had 17 damn near catastrophes in the Americas. It's not just, North America. But that was 33 days ago. And since then, we've had Harvey, we've had Irma, we've had earthquakes in Mexico, 2 of them. It's been really weird in such a short period of time. But what's happening in 2024 is there's another eclipse. And that eclipse is going to come from the southwest and move east. And what it's going to do over the map is it's going to make an X over the map of America. That's I think April 8th, 2024. This is all around the same time that the yugas are changing, that we are going to see. And I'm pretty sure it's K2 on the next one. Rahu was technically, I'm not saying a dark body, okay? It was most likely the moon that blocked the sun, but they call it the ascending and descending nodes. If the moon is ascending, they call it K2. If it's descending off of its plane, its 5-degree plane, that's what they call Rahu. It's just the way Vedics do it. So what's interesting is Rahu always delineates a maleficent change, a change that's abrupt and strong-handed and dangerous even. And K2 brings a benevolent, a beneficent change. And that would hearken essentially the Satya Yuga to begin. Now, this is a 7-year period, though. We're 7 years away from that. This is where it gets interesting for me, because that matches up with what Revelations 12 and a whole other, we're talking about Western theology and eschatology now. Revelations 12 matches up with that, because now we have a 7-year tribulation. Now, that's what the Christian biblical literalist is to call this. And that's what they will believe that it is. This is why I'm saying it's so important to understand this issue properly with the most academic and spiritual approach that you can have for it, because this is very heavy information and people are throwing it around. I don't know. People are using it to sell their damn YouTube channels today, practically. And I mean, it's whatever. It's the 23rd, okay? Like, it's happening, but people don't understand the ramifications of how it can affect somebody's mind. I've seen enough good Christian folks in comment sections talking about how ready they are. We'll put it that way. And I am concerned about that. I am, because the psychology of this can be rather dark if one allows it to. And anyway, I don't want to get into. I don't even want to get into that stuff. The point I'm trying to get to here is that there are multiple ways to look at this. There are. The way I look at it is we've known for quite a while that things were changing, that there was a change of the age coming. We all hoped it was 2012. I know every one of you hoped it was 2012. Everybody was probably pissed as hell when nothing changed, when nothing happened, nothing cosmic, nothing obvious, nothing obviously spiritual. I personally think there was an attunement that occurred. Perhaps there was a more subtle, maybe the subtle energies became less subtle. I don't know. It seemed like more people were a little bit willing to have these types of conversations, except Jim Panda. No, he's willing to have the conversations. But and shout out to everybody in the chat. I know it's been a while since I've been out here trying to get my bearings. So the way I feel about it now is that, and everybody's known this about me, I've taken a very Gnostic approach with, now I want to make clear, I don't believe the Gnostic story, the fairy tale of the demiurge and Sophia and all that. I don't know. I don't have a reason to believe that. I don't lean towards that. I don't think, when I say the word Gnostic, I mean going within, finding your creator within, meeting your maker by focusing inward and introspecting and feeling what the Hindus call the subtle energies. That's what I think of as the most important thing spiritually. An atheist can do this and call it meditation. You know, a Christian can do it and say that they're communing with Christ via the Holy Spirit. A Hindu can do it and say that they're walking with Krishna. A Buddhist can do it. They're just meditating. It's Vipassana meditation. There needs to be a unification of comprehension. Everybody is doing the same thing. They're just calling it something different. And they're all stuck on isms and ists and sects and sect, S-E-C-T, and doctrine, fucking doctrine everywhere, especially in Christianity. And I'm going to get on that in here just a second. So to any biblical literalist listening to me right now, I think some of you know me very well to know that I mean no damage, or nor am I trying to assault your beliefs. But something that I have to bring to the attention concerning this, what they would be calling the tribulation, is that there are several eschatological views. Now, eschatology is the study of the apocalypse, and it's a real field, and there are several takes on the Bible, mainly focusing on Daniel and Revelations and some with Isaiah and whatnot, but it's mainly trying to interpret Revelations. This is a very mystical and spooky book. A lot of people don't know how to take it. You know, a lot of people, they go off of metaphor and inference and this and that, and it's really quite simple when you understand it. A lot of it has to do with the sky. That's why this Virgo thing, you know, clothed in the sun, moon over her feet, with 12 stars on her head, pregnant with Jupiter, this kind of thing. Well, it says pregnant with a child that shall rule them with an iron rod. Well, if you understand the archetypes, you understand the pantheons, it's Jupiter, and that's who's in the womb. So it makes total sense. There's just so much information. Hold on, I kind of lost my place. Oh yeah, back to the doctrines. So there are several ways to interpret it, and there is the modern eschatology that most evangelical Christians believe in. It's a conscription to this notion of a rapture, a 7-year tribulation. The abomination of desolation occurs at the 3.5-year mark. Basically, the Antichrist goes into the temple and desecrates it. The first 3.5 years are rather, they're kind of subtle. It's really the Antichrist just gaining power. But then the abyss opens up when the abomination of desolation occurs. Everything goes sideways. You know, scorpion beasts are stinging atheists in the forehead. Like it's supposed to get, you know, pretty crazy. And I'm just going off Revelations. I'm not inferring anything. I'm going by the text. Some of this stuff's in there. The seals and the bowls. It's quite horrifying, actually. If you haven't really looked into it before and you aren't prepared, it's see. When I was growing up, I grew up in a Seventh Day Adventist home. So I was around pastors and preachers and very intelligent men who um, knew all this stuff about Revelations and the future coming tribulation and all this stuff. And we were talking about cashless society and Mark of the Beast in '93 and '94. Like these guys were, you know, total conspirators, you know, trying to say this stuff is coming, the Mark of the Beast is coming. And I think I grew out most of it, but it's still, I'm so happy I went through that because now I understand from that deeper perspective. But what's so ironic about the whole thing is it's the eschatology that they have chosen, and it's called futurism. Now, there's two major distinctions here. There is what's called preterism, and there's one called futurism. Now, futurism states that the events in Revelations are supposed to happen in the future. They haven't happened yet. This is a second coming of Christ. This is the prophecy. This is what it is. Okay. I'll actually read it real quick. Futurism is the Christian eschatological view that interprets portions of the book of Revelations and the book of Daniel as future events in a literal, physical, apocalyptic, and global context. By comparison, other Christian eschatological views interpret these passages as past events in a symbolic historic text or as present day events in a non literal and spiritual context. Now, what they were just mentioning here is what I'm trying to point out. So we have preterism, that's Preterism, and historicism. Historicism? It's kind of a stupid name. We'll just stick with the preterism. So we have preterism and we have futurism. This is extremely important to know the roots and the history of where these ideas come from. Like I said, preterism just makes the statement that no, all the things that happen in that John's describing in Revelations already occurred. This is from 1970, excuse me, 1970. This is from 70 AD when Israel was invaded, all the way to about 90. This is the rise of Rome, the persecution of the early Christians. This is the Antichrist is the Pope. This is all, you know, they rely on doctrine of when Jesus said all these things, you know, will happen surely within your generation. You know, there is a lot of text that can lead you to believe that there was no reason to interpret it as a futurist event, like a literal second coming. Now, preterism is extremely controversial. I've only met a couple of preterists out here, but that exists. Now, where futurism comes in, and I'll be finished with this pretty soon, guys. I know it's a bit heavy, but it's important. Futurism isn't just called futurism. It's called Jesuit futurism. It was created by a Jesuit pope, or excuse me, Jesuit priest named Ribera in 1593. He was instructed by the Pope at the time to find a way to make the Protestants shut up about him being the Antichrist. Because back then it was Antichristos, and it meant essentially after Christ, and it was speaking of the Pope. So the Reformation was a big deal. Those Bibles going out, big deal. And the Protestants were super, super serious about taking this thing as correctly as possible. And all of them back then were preterists. There is no evidence whatsoever that the eschatology of the Protestants was anything but preterism up until, well, you could argue some special cult-like sects like Seventh-day Adventists, like Jehovah's Witnesses, that they were considered cult-like because they were doomsday cults, you could argue, that because they believed all this stuff was happening in the future. This was all manufactured and interpreted as doctrine by a Jesuit named Ribeiro in order to basically get the Protestants off of Rome's back in that way. And it's called Jesuit futurism. It's actually called Jesuit futurism. That's in the title of it. And it is so important to understand this. I can't convince, nor do I want to convince somebody away from their faith in any way, shape, or form. But it is very important to understand on a topic such as this, it's this big, it's this deep, and we're seeing something in the sky that happens to match up with this book. Please make sure that you understand the history, you understand whose doctrine you're following. It's not just the Bible's words you're just taking there. The subtleties of manipulation, and it happens in the doctrine. See, Protestants didn't even have these ideas until about 1973, where a Jesuit trained man went and became an evangelical and wrote this book about the rapture and about this tribulation period. He passed it out to several, preachers and such. It didn't get that successful. But then we had a guy in the 80s write a book called Left Behind. And if you folks are unaware, Left Behind is a book empire. I believe they have like 11 different stories. It's a book empire bigger than Harry Potter. Seriously, the numbers. It's just we don't hear about the Christian. American is 70% Christian. So the story is the rapture occurs, X amount of people are gone, and then the tribulation begins, and then this is the story of this book. And they made some movies that are terrible. Well, the guy who wrote that, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he was a 33rd degree Freemason. It's pretty well known. So what he's doing is he's using Jesuit futurism and he's selling it to the Protestants, which I don't think Protestants know what the word protest means anymore, because they're following so much Jesuit and Roman doctrine and Catholic doctrine at this point. It just blows my mind. So look, this topic is massive, it is huge, and it requires, I think, a special objectivity in order to understand what might be happening here. I'm not saying anything is going to happen except for what you make of it. That's why if you look at the title, this is not the 7-year tribulation, it's the jubilation. We're going to invert it. We're going to do this the right way. So every single individual, I don't care if you're an atheist or if you're a biblical literalist or a Gnostic or a Vedic, I don't care. What we need to do is be good to ourselves and be good to other people. We need to go within. We need to find the light within. We need to express that. And whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Okay? I don't care. Even if you are an atheist, you still got consciousness. Why don't you call consciousness part of God? I don't know. I don't care. But if we go within, we find that connection, and we learn to be more empathetic, and we learn to spark that light in other people. I think that we can do a lot in this world. And if we follow the fear program that they're laying out for us, because that's what this is. To me, at this point, I feel like this is some type of global governance push. Mind you, I'm just a conspirator. I don't know anything. I'm not privy to any special information. This is just my opinion, my assessment. I would even go so far as to say that the Jesuit futurism was a plot placed there by Rome with the knowledge of the age change in order to capture the age, to recapture the age, because they surely got this one. My view, Rome is the adversary. They play the adversarial role. That's all the word Satan means. It just means the adversary. So I don't want to get too metaphysical with this stuff, but I think that we as thinking men and women who care deeply about the right things in this world, and I know that if you're listening, if you're one of the 33 people listening to me right now, you're at this corner of the internet, you care about the right things. And we just have to invert their inversions. We have to revert everything back to its true form. And now is our time. We take their symbology. Make this a Promethean reclamation. Take the symbols, take the logos, take the numbers, take everything that they tried to make spooky with all their spookism on all of their scary numbers like 33 and everything else. We take that back. We would, you know what? How about this? How about we create an open source philosophical society? So what we do is we take the structure of a secret society and we externalize it. And it be for research and sharing and promotion of esoteric and philosophical and even civic and law and legal matters. And what we do is that's it. We'll call it the Open Source Philosophical Society. We'll run the ops, the OPS, Open Source Philosophical Society. And with that, there'll be no oath. There'll be no oath whatsoever. But there'll still be a vetting process. We want thinking men. We want to establish a way for us to finally do this right. I think we're on the cusp of, I think that all this signifies the September 23rd thing. It's a marker. It's a marker. Now, let's be real. The people who are setting these markers, well, they don't play around. Now, I've argued that is it a playbook or is it divine revelation? Now, Victoria would say it's divine revelation, bless her heart. I have no negative thing to say about that. And not just Victoria, but many other very well-meaning biblical literalists. And I know why they say it. And I praise them for being so bold. I, though, am a bit more conspiratorial and suspicious. And I see deception everywhere I look, it seems. And for me, it almost seems partially like a playbook. So whatever they put at us, what we need to do is take it, revert it, and just pave this path with jubilation, no fear, whatever it is that they may come. I'm down here in Florida, and we've had Irma do the weirdest stuff. I mean, oh my goodness. Here's something that you'll enjoy. Search Strange Lights Irma. Go search for that on YouTube when you get some time. Because I saw those with my own eyes. Reds and oranges and blues and pink and all lighting up the sky. At first I thought it was a transformer blowing up. And then I thought it was lightning because the next one was white. And the next one was blue, a deep blue. And then it was just red and orange. And it was over such a large area, it could not have been. Personally, I think it was probably solar flare type. Maybe like auroric behavior, auroras, you know, something along those lines. I'm not sure. But look up that. I don't know what this is at the end of the day. But I look at it as as a marker. And I think everybody can look at it as a marker. We look at the world and the shape it is right now, and we know things need to change. And I think if a man looks at the world and they cannot come to that realization at least, then there's something wrong with them, which is, I think most people realize it now. Well, what's going to change? It's, the only thing that can change is our approach to it, our consciousness, what we bring to the table with our energy and our mind and our intention. And like I said, there's going to be tons of these fear programs that are running along the path. I'm hearing horrible things about Houston right now. See, I've even heard of someone suggest that Irma was the distraction. Because if you look at the whole media coverage, Harvey got barely any coverage. Then it sat over Texas as a category 2, half on the land for like 2 days. And then all of a sudden it jumped to a cat 4, came inland 100 miles, and then sat there for 7 fucking days. Pardon my language. That doesn't make sense if you've been around hurricanes. But all of a sudden Irma came, and we didn't hear anything about the rescue. And I'm hearing some horror stories about what quote unquote rescue. You know, Texas they did full disarmament out there. You know, there was a lot of violent stuff that we didn't hear about. That's just now surfacing. So, I mean, these are crazy times. Half of the United States is on fire right now. Over in the Northwest, you've got an 8.1 and 8.2 down there in Mexico, quite close to each other, and all over the world. 6.5s and 6.0s are popping off everywhere. So I think it's important for us to capture the times. It's up to us. We're the ones who can see. It's just that simple. There are those who seek, and they will see. That you get what you ask for in this world. If you want to know the truth, you're going to find it. And with the new, I see somebody in the chat, Emmanuel, welcome. I know you're joking, saying, well, when's the rapture? The rapture is a really interesting topic. You know, I told you I was raised Seventh-day Adventist myself. I'm 36 years old. So we're talking about more than 20 years ago. And I was raised, luckily it was outside of my most formative years. I was 11 when we got into the church, and I wanted to become a preacher really bad. And so I used to study with my pastor, and the level of friends that he would have conversations about Revelations and Daniel and the way this all works. And the thing about them is they believe the futurist doctrine, which is so funny because they hate Rome. They're like, Rome is the devil. They created this and that, and they changed the Sabbath, you know, from Saturday to Sunday because of the calendar, and they're pagans and all this stuff. But then at the end of the day, they follow the doctrine called futurism for their main eschatology, which is a literal Jesuit doctrine. There's no conspiracy about that. It just is. But anyways, they are pre-trib rapturists, most of them. They believe that, well, today or tomorrow, or probably anytime around then, that's supposed to happen. And we've had a lot of rapture predictions. I personally don't think it is. Now, a lot of them will then say, well, no, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's mid-trib rapture. And so 3.5 years will come around, and then they'll be like, well, maybe it was in-trib. Post-trib, they call it. I don't know. Unless it happens, then I don't have faith in doctrine. The word harpazo is where the word rapture comes from, and it only exists in the Bible 11 times. And it's not even in the Bible, it's in just the Greek Septuagint. It only exists, I believe, 11 or 13 times. And harpazo is interesting because it doesn't directly correlate with the word. Well, it has a negative connotation. That's what I don't understand. It means to take by force. It means it leads to the word rape, rapture, rape. It's in the same etymological structure. So I don't know why it's lauded. I mean, I suppose if I'm taken by force by a benevolent creator, my all loving creator, yeah, sure. Um, I get it, but it's a doctrine thing. Unfortunately, there isn't much. I don't know. I don't like getting into the eschatology of it all. I'm interested in the stars. I'm interested in what I feel inside about it all, my connection with my creator. I'm not trying to push anything on anyone, nor am I trying to tell people anything outside of just, hey, go within. Just look inside, you might find something. That's my whole thing these days. I'm not trying to shape anybody's reality tunnels or reality filters. That's not what I came out here for. I came to continue to shape mine. I just saw so much disinformation and misunderstandings concerning this that I had to say something. I've been sitting on this information for 6 months because, like I just said, it is too it's too heavy for some people. This can give somebody well, it could have. Now that we're here, it's a little easier for people to think about. But this can give somebody an existential crisis, like in a heartbeat. And I'm not trying to do that to people. I want people to, and plus, I think if a person doesn't care about this kind of stuff, then they won't care. It'll just go right past them. It won't be a big deal. I've seen that on numerous occasions. And I want to make clear, I don't think that this is the end of the world. I think it's the end of it's the beginning of the end of the old age. That's what I think. I think it's the beginning of the end of the old world. The old age is finally moving along. And we have an opportunity to capture this if we do it right. I think that if we as mankind can come together and do this properly and not allow the darkness to continuously prevail, we will have our 1,000 years of peace, as the Vedics promise, as Jesus promised. The golden age is in every culture. The Hopi Indians, it's there. But if we choose to just turn a blind eye or not speak up, not say something when we see something, we could have our 10,000 years of darkness, not 1,000 years, 10,000 years of darkness. Even Orwell and Huxley alluded to that the technology, the scientific dictatorship that they are crafting right now is so beyond what we can comprehend. The levels of mind control that has been used on us already is so much for someone to bear that they just reject it outright when you give them the smallest amount of information. When you say, hey, look at this and look at this, they immediately get triggered. Why do you think we say the word triggered nowadays over the past 5 years? Think about it for a second. The word triggered is a mind control term, a mind control trigger. It's used in neurolinguistic programming in order to understand how to anchor something in someone's mind and how to trigger a response based off of the previous anchor. Why do you think they call them news anchors? Get it, guys? I know most of you do. But I was trying to have this conversation the other night, and it triggered a bunch of people. They call it television programming. They called it that out the gate, and everybody's like, oh, I love it. My favorite program's on tonight. My grandmother still calls it her favorite program. She loves it, loves being programmed by corporate interests. And it's just, to me, it's dark. And when you say, when I say something, if you see something, say something, I'm not talking about snitching on your people, on your brothers and sisters. I mean calling out darkness where it is. Look, all we have in this world is our voice and our ability to make contracts with people. We have our word, we have our logos. All darkness needs, all evil needs to succeed is for good people to do nothing, to say nothing. Well, that time is over. You know, we've been getting called conspirators for 20 fucking years by pointing out the obvious, that physics took a day off on 9/11, that Building 7 wasn't hit by a plane. I mean, these are memes and tropes at this point, but they're not wrong. Everything's just been turned into a joke, into a cartoon, into a meme, into a trope, and it makes it so that nobody takes it seriously anymore. But we've been talking about these things. We've been talking about mind control. MK people only talk about superficial stuff like MK Ultra. I mean, this shit goes so deep. Most of the budget for research these days with DARPA and these other entities are towards neurobiology, cognitive science, essentially mind control, and some very deep, very scary levels. Um, the military industrial complex and those types of black ops and stuff, they're more than 15, 20 years ahead of what you can even comprehend technologically. It's crazy. It's crazy. There's a whole sci-fi world going on behind the scenes because militaries have always they have us capped out at 1960s technology. We're using car with gasoline and oil, and we're flying planes with gasoline and oil. Shit was perfected in the 60s. For people to think while we're using these devices, while we're talking on this type of technology, that better technology didn't come around for transportation, or it's just absurd. It's just absurd. So there is a second set of sciences. There is suppressed technology and information. I mean, we know it. And I think now is the time that these things are going to come out. I think that we're going to see the changes that we've been expecting for the longest time. That's what I think this is. I think it's just that, and however you want to view it and frame it and make your worldview about it, well, that's up to you. Like I said, the biblical literalists will have their eschatology. I hope they choose the correct eschatology. I wouldn't want to be believing in a psyop deception. I wouldn't want to believe in a doctrine that was created by Jesuits potentially as some type of plan, as we know we saw with Copernicus and heliocentricity. If you've seen that psyop against geocentricity, and against people, but I won't go that route. So I have concerns for my Christians, brother and sister. Um, so just take heed. There are deceptions everywhere, every level. Spiritual deception on spiritual deception. So, yeah. But anyways, quick shout out to everybody in the chat. We got a good crew here. It's been a while. Thank you for everyone who showed up. Victoria, it's great to see you, dear. Thanks for coming over. Also, Persian Scribe, much love and respect, man. I love your responses. Charlotte, it's good seeing you. Timaeus, old school. Known you for over 2.5 years at this point. IPS, Morky, What World D, Ed, Jim Panda, I appreciate that. Good old Timothy Usman is around here somewhere. Just lightly trolling. Monique, my girl. Is a Vince Skeptic in here? Is he? Ronnie, what are you doing, Ronnie? Are you being mean, Ronnie? I know IPS, you're quite furtive in your communications, especially text. So if anybody has any questions in particular, I mean, this is a lot of information to take in, and I really I didn't do it any justice. I, as much as I should, I have folders upon folders of my research on this, and like I said, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, um, and I want to make sure that people can help their family, can help their friends, because I don't even want to say this. I mean, look, YouTube is crazy. We don't know what this is truly. There might be a metaphysical contract that we're making by going live. I don't know what this is. We're going on a permanent record. 40 years from now, 50 years from now, everything that I say and we've said on YouTube can be literally brought back up. It's going on the blockchain. It's permanently there. Um, but even with that said, I think that it's important to note that if a person believes the wrong eschatology, it can give them the wrong reality filter, which is the way that they filter the information and respond based off of perceptions that were, it's kind of hard to explain. I don't want to get too much into it, but that's what I'm saying. Please help your friends and family. If somebody is losing their mind because it's the end of the world and they didn't get raptured, or they feel like they should have, and they are, they're here for the long haul and they don't know what to do, and these ideas can really mess with somebody's minds if they believe it to a very high degree, and they don't realize that it's doctrine. They don't realize there may be layers here of deception. And I don't want any good Christian folks to misunderstand me. I'm saying this out of compassion. I'm saying this out of care. I'm not trying to be like, oh, your doctrine's stupid, it's a psyop. I'm not. I'm definitely not saying that. So I think you understand, Victoria. Um, oh, forgive me. I explained earlier. Eschatology is just the study of the apocalypse. It's just the study of the end times. There's Vedic eschatology. The funny thing is, though, is that the word was created by who else but the Jesuits. The Jesuits created the word. Then they created the first, documented. Like I said, everybody was a preterist before, which, I mean, they all believed that the Revelations was talking about events that already occurred. And that's the thing. This sign in the sky is only unique for two small reasons. This happens every September, every 11 years, essentially. The sun's going to be in Virgo in September. The moon's going to be at our feet, once a month. And with the sun in there, Jupiter makes the retrograde every 11 years. Sometimes it's 150, sometimes it's 180 days in the womb, which is the retrograde. What makes it really unique is the 260 days in the womb, which is the human gestation period of 9 months, and also the 12 stars. Now, Leo has 9. And then you have Mercury, Mars, and Venus, which makes it 12. Those are the wandering stars that happen to be in Leo, that is really, really rare, in my opinion. If you look at Stellarium, that this is very, very few times that happens. So just note that if a person is having trouble with this information, or you think they are, make sure you talk it out. And I don't, please don't think that I'm overreacting here either, okay? If a group of people believe that this is the marker of the tribulation, then their behavior is going to be modified to fit that. And if you don't know what this is, well, you better start learning. You better start researching and searching, and go within. Personally, I think that as we have seen an escalation of world events and things, I think it's just going to continue at a further space. If anybody's ever heard of the quickening, actually in the Bible, time speeds up, then the flow of knowledge speeds up, and so does the negativity as well towards the end of the age. Also, you got the Nibiru people who think that Nibiru is hiding behind the sun right now. There are some weird things about the waters receding. I don't want to get too far into all this but this just happened again in South America, all the way from North Brazil all the way to Uruguay. The waters of the Atlantic Ocean receded a mile away from the shore and then just came back. It didn't tidal wave, just came back. This happened during Irma. They blamed it on reverse storm surge. That's what they called it. It's pretty silly. Happened in Africa. It happened in France. It happened in North Florida at the Intercoastal Waterway, which is a river. It was insane. Look at the footage on that. It happened in Pensacola. The hurricane hadn't even hit Miami yet, and it happened in Pensacola. Tampa Bay, my brother walked on the bed of the Tampa Bay. It receded about a mile away. What that means, I don't know. I have no idea what that could possibly mean, because every time it returned, it did not cause any flood. Except up in Jacksonville, there was like some creeks that flooded out. But when it returned from the ocean, think about that. Where's the water going? How could that much water be pulled back and then just come back? Almost as if it's like a function of the tides. And, I think that if you know much about the tides, they're, good old Jim Panda will disagree, but I think they're electromagnetic. I think they have, you're dealing with salt water, and in that you're dealing with the electromagnetism of the diamagnetic word salad of the water. And because of that, the sun and moon have an anode and cathode behavior to them. And so I do think the sun and moon are intrinsically linked to the tides, but I think for different reasons, not gravity, but this diamagnetic aspect. And because of that, perhaps these solar flares and strange solar activities that we've been having, we had two X10s right before Irma, and an X17 that went a little, it didn't hit us though. Then we had like 11 M class solar flares. So maybe the water receding has something to do with that. There's no storms down there, and there's none. There's no storms in South America with the water receding a mile. There was no storm in Pensacola. These people who were trying to say, oh, there's a storm somewhere, and that's where the water went. The hurricane sucked up the water, and then it brought it back down. It's retarded. Literally. There are so many retarded people. It's ridiculous. Forgive me, I get a bit annoyed by this. Because I'm down here in Florida. I witnessed it. And it's pretty interesting. I've never seen anything like it in my life in 36 years. So, okay. Here, I'm looking at chat now once again. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Seriously, much love to you, Victoria. Seriously, be blessed, dear. It's crazy. I've known you out here for over 2.5 years. Always been good people. Ronnie, quit calling everyone Satanists. Just say it, man. Like, it's unbecoming of a gentleman. You guys seem like such nice people, and then you like SEO people with Satanism and like make them look terrible. It's weird. Sharknadoes. Oh, and a bit, I gotta do it, man. I gotta give a big shout out to IPS. And for one of the weirdest bit of synchronicities. And yeah, Sharknadoes are totally deadly. So when I first met IPS, Issa introduced me to him when he only had 500 subs, and he was on a hell of a progression. He was just really reading his book, and then he moved on from some current events, and then he started getting into. After we started talking, we were talking about like I was going around saying praise the visible gods. I realized that Jupiter is essentially Zeus, is Chango, is Odin, is Jehovah, it's all of these names are associated with Jupiter. Same with Saturn, which is El, and Kronos, and all of these things. Venus is Prometheus and Lucifer, and it's just the wandering stars have always been the gods. And IPS was going in this direction, and for some reason, out of nowhere, I can't even understand how he put it together. He just said, "Hey guys, this is called Jesuit futurism. It's a total psyop. If there's any ever an end of days scenario, don't believe it because it's being manufactured by Rome. Look, it's right here. This guy named Ribeiro did this. He misinterpreted Revelations on purpose. And so if they ever pull some end times scenarios on you, be wary, be vigilant. It's probably a Jesuit psyop." It's essentially what he had said, even though he was talking about it in the framework of heliocentricity, like retaining the new religion that they created with heliocentricity. He was going along the lines of, like, if they do an asteroid attack and the ISS ends up getting damaged because of it, and they try to reinterpret all the myths and push it in this way. He's like, it's just going to be futurism. It's this psyop. If you look at how futurism was constructed, it was to create fear in the population of the believers. And it's brilliant because it's not just the fear when events start happening, but there's a constant hypervigilance that a good Christian will feel because they're like, Jesus is supposed to come back at any moment. When we start seeing signs, look up, for our redemption draw nigh. And how many times has this occurred throughout past 500 years since Jesuit futurism is implemented? It's been a lot. I mean, when I was 14 years old, I literally had a breakdown one day because I was like, oh no, Jesus is going to come back any day. I'm not going to be able to live the rest of my life. What if he comes back tomorrow? Like, I hate to admit it, but I had that crisis, this little existential crisis when I was 14 years old. So it perpetually puts you in the state of fear of the end of the world. And that's what we have to protect ourselves from. This is why it's so important to understand your reality filter, what you accept as true. And thank you, Charlotte. Nowhere in Scripture does it say that there will be a rapture. Thank you. You're helping illustrate the point. It is doctrine. It's inferences from the word harpazo, which only exists 13 times in the Greek Septuagint. And the word is used of a variety of different ways. It's actually used in 4 different ways when you look at Strong's. And the one that they cling to the most is, of course, in 2 Thessalonians, but they also look at the Revelations 12, which states that, and the child that Virgo is bearing, the red dragon will be perched at the womb, and it will be harpazoed up to heaven, which is essentially that's where they get this idea of rapture. And Victoria, if I'm wrong in any way, please help me out here. I want you to understand, anyone listening, I'm not saying it's one way or the other. I'm saying this is my current perspective and this is my current understanding of the matter. Look, we're dealing with very, very important ideas. Seriously, we really are. And I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to push people in any particular Well, that IPS, that depends. The word Lord is affiliated with unfortunately, the name Baal, B-A-apostrophe-A-L. There also might be an issue with Jehovah being who he says he is, but I don't want to go down that Gnostic path with you right now. So, yeah, I don't use the word Lord anymore, actually. Yeah. But Victoria, please, if I'm serious. I'm not trying to challenge you or put you on the spot, but if you could please help me where you think that it's not just doctrine, it's not just inferences or metaphor, that the rapture is clearly pointed to. And I don't mind if it's pre-trib, post-trib, or mid-trib. And Ronnie, I sound very daft in this topic. I'm sure. I'm quite sure. Look, Ronnie, you were already supposed to be raptured on the 21st of last year, so don't come in here telling me I'm daft. With all due respect, you've already said you were supposed to be raptured. So can you please get out of here with that type of disrespect? Please don't put me on your Satanist list. Ronnie, I've done nothing but be very decent to you over the past 3 years, if you recall. So please, if I'm saying something wrong, please inform me. If you care about me, then please inform me. Anyways, look, these are very big ideas. These are very big concepts. We really are dealing with right now, this sign in the heavens. There are millions of people right now who think that this is the beginning of the tribulation, and that it is the beginning of, well, the rapture is to occur. Most people have a pre-trib perspective. And well, thank you, Ronnie. Yeah, I don't got a bad thing to say about you, man. Um, I disagree with you on a lot, but that's great, man. Um, would you save the world or make PMARS? It's the both, man. It's both. You gotta do that to save the world. Thank you, Himawari. Yeah, look, I've just been studying this for the past 6 months, and in the beginning, I dug in with a biblical literalist filter as much as possible. Um, I consider I consider a knowledge scavenger to be a brilliant woman, and despite her, she knows that I have a Gnostic perspective, but even still, she wished to help me and teach me on these matters. And I went to her first with all this because I knew that she knows. I know she knows enough about these topics. And then I also went to John, of course, Quantum Eraser. He's strong worldview, strong biblical literalist. Excuse me, yeah, Quantum Eraser. He, you know, these perspectives are important. As much as people hate religion or dislike it or think it needs to go away, or all of the institutions are definitely wrong, and they've definitely harmed a lot of people. But there's a reason why these ideas are still prevalent and they are still important. And I mean just biblical ideas, Quranic ideas, Vedic ideas, Buddhist ideas. They are the structure of our civilization, our modern civilization. They are they're the foundations. There's a Bible in every single. You have to swear in Bible. You go into every courtroom. Um, our law system is built on it. You can't just throw this stuff away as much as people want to. You look at Sam Harris and the atheist crowd and whatnot, they just want to throw it all away. They don't understand the ramification. Go listen to some Jordan Peterson. Seriously, everybody do yourself a favor. Just listen to anything. Just anything. Type in Jordan Peterson. Read it, listen to anything he says. The guy's on point. But concerning the foundations of religion, then yeah, he absolutely knows what he's talking about. He disagrees with the atheists, even though he has more of an atheist perspective. He disagrees with them greatly because they don't understand the value of religion, and I do. I don't have the faith to be a biblical literalist. I don't have faith in doctrine, and I don't have faith in the men who carry those books to me. Think about it. We've got, I don't want to, well, you know what? I'm just going to lay it out. So we have a Semitic tribe in the Mesopotamian area, 5,000, 6,000 years ago. They're coming in and out of Babylon. They've been isolated. They're in the wilderness. They are Talmudic. That's what they are. They're a Semitic Talmudic tribe. The Talmud comes from Babylon. This was their religious order of the day, the Semitic people. They come out and they begin to have experiences that will amount to the Torah. The Torah is written and the bloodlines are established. Abraham and Noah and etc. Now, the Semitic people grow around the Mediterranean over the next 4,000 years. And then come the empires, and Rome is there at the turn of the centuries. Excuse me, turn of the millennium. And, well, it's funny. I doubt it went from 0 to 1 back then. The good old Gregorian had to chop the calendar up to make it go back to 0. But during that time, Rome, it was the Flavian dynasty at the time, where Jesus shows back up at age 33. I believe it was 32, maybe died at 33. They conquered the Semitic people. Yeah, before I get into this, if you guys are curious, there's a book called Caesar's Messiah, written by Joseph Atwell. He is another academic that I highly recommend. I'm not saying that, because if I were to say, hey, go read his book and believe him, that's doctrine. That's words of men. I'm not telling you to do that. What I'm saying is gather more information on the subject and make your own discernment. That's it. And what he says, what Atwell points out, is that when they leveled Jerusalem in 70 AD, they knocked it all the way down to the ground. The last stone was demolished. This is what is talking about the temple being destroyed. They took Josephus and they brought him back to Rome. And Rome wanted to come up with a sufficient... See, the old Bibles used to show Josephus had a part in writing it. And this is contestable. I've had Christians come to me and say, no, this isn't true about him. But it does appear to be. Josephus had a lot to do with the writings and the selections of the works and the materials that were put into what we call the New Testament. It's so much so they called him Josephus Flavius. They gave him the last name. What they were trying to provide is a meek and mild prophet, as the Semitic tribes, they wished to have a warrior prince like David and Solomon. And so they were like, wait, we can't have that. So let's turn it down a little bit. Let's make them turn the other cheek. Let's, this and that. Now, mind you, I'm not saying this is what I know, or I'm just saying this is what Caesar's Messiah describes it in, is that it was handcrafted by the Flavians, and the full of it after Nicaea and everything was finalized with Constantine, because Constantine was the last of the Flavians. So it was like they created the New Testament. This is the reason why Jews don't believe in Jesus, because they think Jesus was a psyop. I hate to say it that way, but that's what they think. So this is why they think that. I never understood it before. If you look at it from that historical lens, it's quite possible that Rome wrote all of this. There's even we don't know if John wrote Revelations. There's another author named Xenethus. It's CYN, I believe it starts with, and there's been styleologists who have looked over the works of all these ancient writers and whatnot, and John does not match with Revelations. All of John's other work does not match in word usage and style and even handwriting. And so people are asserting that it was a guy named Xenethus, I believe, and who was on the Council of Nicaea. And then even in the beginning, Revelations wasn't in the book at first. And then think of what they took out, what King James took out. Also, King James wrote a book called Demonologia with Francis Bacon on how to summon the Gosha. But yet people say King James is the best Bible. Well, it looks at more accurate, but what I'm saying is there's these chains of events. You go from a Semitic tribe, a Talmudic Semitic tribe, who gives you the foundation. Then you go to Rome, who is the empire of Rome, who has no interest in your spiritual life. Let's be honest with ourselves. And then you have 2,000 years of handling where we didn't get access until 500 years ago because, the Protestant movement and whatnot. That's why it was so important. The Bible, I mean, the book, the book Moving Type Press. It was so important that books became a thing. It's how, I mean, the internet's doing the same thing, but just been radical ways. So I ask actually, you know what? I'm going to just be bold with it. I'm going to ask the good Christian folks who are here right now. The first question is, do you trust Talmudic, Zionist, Jewish folks? Just throwing that out there. Just a quick question that you don't need to answer it. I'm just saying that I'm framing this a little bit. And then you got to ask yourself, do you trust the Holy Roman Empire? The men, you go and read the Jesuit oath and you see what they do and what they've done. And do you trust the Jesuits? Do you trust Rome? Do you trust the Flavians? Do you trust Josephus? Then you say, well, do you trust King James? Do you trust the men surrounding you? Do you trust Francis Bacon, who was a Freemason and actually created the Rosicrucians? These are my problems. That's it. These are my problems. This is why when I look at something like this, I can see several levels of deception and potential deception. And that's all. That's my perspective. I don't know really what else to say about it. And I'm not trying to dissuade anybody. Please read my disclaimer if anybody hasn't. It is a very important subject. Hold on one second, guys. All right. Sorry about dead air. If there's any questions, please let me know. And like I said, duck. No offense, but you're a duck. Not very nice, right? What does that mean, Ronnie? I'm a duck? Yeah, I mean, guys, I don't know what's going to happen. It all depends on the filter that you choose before you go into it. This is what my point is. And concerning Jesus, concerning the Christ, I recommend every single person to read the letters of Christ and to internalize them and to do what he says. Absolutely. 111%. I can't stress it enough. I tell everybody, go within, connect with the Holy Spirit, call upon Christ, connect to your Creator. Do it. Do it. Ask for forgiveness. Forgive the flesh. Ask for Christ to forgive you. Do it. There are many ways. There are people who do it through communing with nature. There are people who do it who are meditating in India. There are people who do it who are Buddhists. There are people who do it who are living in Mormon cults with 10 wives. They're doing it too if they know how to do it. So to say you're the only one doing it and everybody's doing it wrong, brother, that's not good for us. It's not good for us lights. It's everything wrong with us. So please, this us or them, or I don't agree with your doctrine, so therefore you're a Satanist. Ronnie, it's too much, man. And I'm not trying to get on your radar, dude. Like seriously, I don't do YouTube anymore. This was important enough for me to come out here and talk. But to it's dividing everybody. Thank you, Turquoise Dragon. Much respect and love to you. Divide and conquer from another perspective. All this creator creation has ever done from the start was divide, separate, organize, and categorize itself into different lenses of perspectives. We're a fragment, everything, even that blade of grass and my consciousness itself. It's just a fragment of this creation. We come from it. Mother Earth, Father Sky. There's so many ways to explain it. There's so many ways. And so now is the time, in my opinion, to get your spiritual house in order. Please. There, let me make sure I get the spelling correct. Running. Is that how you spell that? Waywashi? That's yeah. There's supposed to be an A after the H, right? Yahawashai. Is that the correct? Am I saying the name of God correctly? Yahawashai. Is that right, Ronnie? Just want to make sure. Yahawashai. Or is it the tetragrammaton? The word that okay, good. The word or the letter combination that wasn't supposed to be uttered. I believe that the Jews called it Adonai because of the reverence for the name of God. They said, "Who am I to be able to say the name of God?" That's what they said. Who am I? Who are us to be able to utter the name of God? So why is that your linchpin? Why do I see this as a divisive aspect of this? It makes no sense. And Victoria, you said earlier that God can protect his word. That's what I said is I have faith in my creator. I have faith in Christ. Okay? But I don't have faith in men and I don't have faith in doctrine. Now, if I chose to have a faith that he could protect his word, well, then I guess I'd feel as comfortable as you do. But that's not in my purview. I've seen enough deception through my research and my history that I rely on the Holy Spirit. I rely on discernment when I view these issues. I go within, I feel the subtle energies, I understand what is being shown to me, and that's how I feel that people need to understand these things. It's people make it out to be more complicated than it is. I honestly have felt more calm, collected, serene, and happy for the past 6 months than I think I ever have coming into these different ideas. Some of them are fearful, some of them are actually quite liberating. But yeah, it's all discernment. It's all discernment, folks. Where is Hermes Trismegistus when you need him? That's a good question, Tim. He's down over in the halls of Amenti getting my seat warmed up. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I said something that might be secret society like. Uh-oh. Actually, the Rosicrucians seem pretty cool. I was thinking about reaching out to a couple of them. They don't take an oath. See, this is my biggest thing. Remember, I was talking about the open source philosophical society, the ops, if you will. Um, I really want to do this. I want to invert their system. I want to completely flip it on their head. And I want to be able to have these deep esoteric and deep spiritual conversations and deep intellectual. And I want to bring these people into our. Who's got the sock account called Vaccination Boy? That's brilliant. That one I could get on board with. So, whatever your filter is, please just don't allow fear into the filter. Turn off the television. I know most of you folks, if you're here listening to me, I know you have. Turn off the TV. Literally, throw it away. I don't even care. Get rid of it. I haven't watched TV in 15 years. It is so important. So important. Stop looking at mainstream outlets. It's but don't let fear into your. Here's what you do. This goes back to good old Hermes Trismegistus and a little bit of alchemy. If you guys know what the word transmutation means, this is one of the most important concepts I think I've really kind of come to. Transmutation is essentially taking one energy or one element, usually a lower energy, a lower element, and raising it up, rarefying it, making it into a higher element, either a more heightened energy or a rarefied element. So water would be into air. Air gets rarefied into fire. Fire gets rarefied into plasma, I believe. Those are the old alchemical structures. You see, it wasn't about changing lead to gold. That was the cover. It was about changing lower base consciousness into higher golden consciousness, higher value consciousness. That's what transmutation is all about. And if fear comes into your life, into your purview, there is a term used in the military and psychology and whatnot called hypervigilance, where it is not fear exactly. It's triggered by, hormones. It's triggered by, what do you call it? Adrenaline. But it's not rooted in fear. It's rooted in like a deep, deep focus and awareness. I'm talking about like Jason Bourne level focal point. Like you're just ready for anything. You're ready for anything to occur. So if per se there was something strange occurring with the sky, or you get more worried about what all this stuff is, just stay vigilant. I think that's the only advice I can give you, is just stay vigilant and look up and look up. And I agree with you, Victoria. God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind. I agree 111%. But unfortunately, there is a lot of, I see a lot of fear. I see a lot of, especially in the conspiracy realm, a lot of people are getting really worked up about what might happen, what could happen, what's supposed to happen, what the next 7 years might be like. If you believe in the tribulation, this ain't this ain't going to be good, guys. I'm saying if you believe it, if that's your filter. And you know what? You might manifest it that way. This is why I think it's so important to point this out about reality filters. This is a metaphysical notion that I cannot prove to you, nor can I explain well enough, but there may be something to it. If you have the light of consciousness, you may be creating your reality on a deeper level than you realize, and you become a co-creator. When you take your power back, you become a co-creator with other creators that are out here. And it's just about manifestation. New Age kind of took it and made it sound silly, but this is our God-given right and our ability to be creators. And the better we get at it, the better we can create a better life for ourselves and the people around us. But if we're focused on fear, if we're focused on scary stuff, and you know, we the conspiracy rabbit hole's fun. For a critical thinker, it actually is fun. It's like, oh my God, this and that probably means this and this, and oh my goodness, and oh my God, FEMA camps, and you get down this path. You don't need to. And when you have a bunch of folks, well, Victoria, I really hope that that's true. But at the same time, oh, hold up, I gotta call you out here. The tribulation is not for believers in Jesus, insinuating that you're going to have no fear during this period, and neither will your Christian brethren, which is great. That's what I want to hear. But you're talking about 7 billion people that you're going to have to watch go through this. If that's what you believe, if that's what you think is, I don't know. I don't know. And it's those types of propositions. I'm not trying to call you out like too hard. It's just those are the issues that I have. All the Hindus, yeah, they're retarded. They had the chance to know Christ. They heard his name somewhere, sometime, and because of that, they're damned to hell, and they're gonna have to go through a bunch of tribulation stuff. That frustrates me. That can't be the way this place works. But you see, you said the tribulation is the time where Jacob's troubles in Daniel's 70th week. But that relies on the 1,000-year interpretation of it. You see, this becomes doctrine at that point. I understand the timeline, but there are these little things thrown in there for Daniel's 70th week to be that implementation and that joining of the two books. The 1,000-year theory has to be implemented there. That's doctrine. It's not literal word. But I'm not trying to argue with anybody. Could somebody, CJ Nev, can you please quote me what I'm on my phone right now. 2 Timothy 3:16. Can somebody give me that quote? I'm curious. And please let me know if I'm off base, anybody. I'm not trying to shout out to Rebel Rebel. Now, I wouldn't say full preacher mode, but I do have a little bit of info on this stuff, and I try. Well, Victoria, I'm just I'm not telling you how it is or how it should be or that you're right or you're wrong, okay? Please, anybody listening to me right now, that's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying is this is my perspective. If I am wrong in what I'm saying, then please show me how if you want to take the time to do so. If not, that's fine. But I'm not being adversarial. I'm not trying to question your faith or make you question your. It's not about that for me. Like, and I've made that very clear on several occasions. I know you know that. You've known me for a long time, Victoria. But this is an issue that is very difficult for me, to be honest with you. Oh, Uncle May, I haven't seen you forever. All scripture is God breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness. Yes, I agree. I agree. But just as Timaeus has said here, Daniel is a spurious book. It was written in the Maccabean period, not the Persian period. There's also issues with, like I mentioned earlier, that there's significant questions as to if John really did write Revelations, or was it a Roman, I don't want to say agent, but it would be a Roman agent named. If somebody could help me out with that, is it Cynthius or something like that? I can't remember the exact name, but this is who is suspected as to be writing Revelations, if that were to be the case. But look, this is just, I'm not leaving any stone unturned. You know, I still have my, I still know I've been created on this creation by a creator in order to create for said creator and to experience in good, bad, ugly, right, wrong, beautiful, everything. The duality that exists within here is just that. And my whole point is to figure that out, rise above it, and experience what I need to in order to figure that stuff out. That's what it seems to be the way this works. And in that process, there's puzzles after puzzles after puzzles. And that includes that what we're looking at here. There's so many levels of esoterica concerning the Bible. If you're a Christian person who knows the Bible very well, go look at some Rosicrucian artwork, just the artwork, but Rosicrucian ideas. I'm not saying they're right, but I'm saying that they have another esoteric level on the Bible concerning Christ that I think is quite beautiful in itself. But esoteric doesn't mean hidden, by the way. It just means not surface level. So you have exoteric Christianity, you have esoteric Christianity. You have it's a dual system. There's exoteric astronomy and there's esoteric astronomy. You know, there's dual systems everywhere. And I think it's important to recognize these things. So, and just I'm going to ask the good Christian folks out there if they think I am terribly off base with all this tonight. I'm just curious, everything that you've listened to tonight, what percentage do you think that I'm understanding this? Be truthful. This will be interesting. So yeah, if I choose to be uh, objective and looking at it from an outside point of view in a conspiratorial mindset, I would say Revelations is a playbook. The eschatology that was put forward by the Jesuits called futurism is essentially their world domination play. And they were going to use an alignment that they wrote into the book essentially in Revelations, and they were then going to use that as uh, their rallying point. And the fact that it happens every 11 years to some degree, to at least 70% of the match, um, can be used to their advantage. Now, there are other things here, okay? I haven't got into this. This is year 777 in the Jewish count. Well, it's 5777. Trump was 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old on his day of the first day in office. That's crazy, and you should look into it. That's true. 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old. And on that same day, this is where it gets really crazy. On that same day, his first day in office, Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, was in office for 7 years, 7 months, and 7 days. I'm not making this up. So when you do see these high geometrical circumstance arrive, it really is worth at least noting. There's no need to really um, add any more to it. All of these things came to me very synchronetically in the past 6 months. There was only a couple of people I talked to about it, but I just kept finding more and more and more that came to me concerning this 7-year period in 777, where the two biggest players, would be Trump and would be Netanyahu. Because this is, and another thing that people forget to say is this is the tribulation of Israel. That's how it's stated. It's not just the tribulation, it's the tribulation of Israel. And that means that there's going to be some significant things. Also, early on sunrise yesterday, on the 22nd, Israel struck Damascus. They struck what is it called? An airport and a convoy in Damascus. Now, Damascus is supposed to be leveled. I believe in Isaiah it's mentioned. Supposed to be leveled, and they're doing things symbolically. They really are. So is it a playbook, or is this divine revelation? Is this geometrical? Is it gematria? Is it, or at least we're able to see it through that filter? Is it the demiurge playing out the artificial construct of our 3D reality, and the 5D consciousness is coming to us through the cosmic upgrade that we're getting through the solar flares and the energy that's coming onto this planet as we raise our vibration, because we're getting closer to the Sirius star system, and our star seeds are coming to fruition right here and right now in this change of the age? Or is it that? I don't know. But you guys, I think you could at least look at what the picture I've painted in totality here, and I think you can at least give me a gold star for objectivity. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find a way to communicate this to every single person in a way that would fit their worldview, that would fit their parameters. You guys are having a blast out there in the chat. That's some pro trolling. Love it. Everybody's being fairly nice too. That's very good. Uh, so, yeah, I just want everybody to stay vigilant, stay focused, get your spiritual house in order, love your family, do what you need to do in this world right now. This is my day. This is my jubilation. I'm taking it all back. I'm inverting the fear. This is the beginning of the jubilation, not a tribulation. I'm creating this open source philosophical society called the Ops. We're taking the esoteric, we're taking the philosophical, we're taking the symbols. It is a Promethean reclamation. We're taking it back, and we will go forward publicly and state, yes, this is us, this is what we're doing, because we have every right to do so. The thinking man has arrived. The thinking man, who is not bound to prior oaths, is here to help, is to help people through these consciousness shifts. Because that's what I think it is at the very least. The Christians who, let's say you're in the filter of the Christian paradigm of the tribulation, and there is no rapture. Let's just say it's a post-trib situation. Think of the spiritual growth that those individuals with Christ will go through and endure. Think of that. Think of that. Like how serious that would be, the strength that those individuals would gain as this world crumbles around them the way that they foresee. Wouldn't you call that a consciousness shift? You see, I see it in every one of the filters. It's totally a good buzz, dude. I'm not gonna lie. When you understand how to resonate at a high vibration, which is essentially exactly what it says, if you know what that means, which think about this, we don't ever talk about this very much, but we always see a little toroidal field coming out of the middle of our body. In you see it in like new agey type stuff, right? Nobody even really, they're like, okay, well, I guess the heart it makes like a toroid. Nobody knows. They think that heart pumps blood in our body. If you lay it out every capillary and every vein and artery, now mind you, this is off of Wikipedia. They claim that it would go 100,000 miles for a regular human being if you laid out every capillary, every blood vessel, everything, artery, vein. So in our body, I think it's something like 9 to 12 liters of blood we have in our body. All of that's being pumped by this thumping in our chest. It's pushing all that blood. And I guess by virtue of that, it creates an electrical field, maybe. Or, they shock the heart. They got a pacemaker they put to it. Maybe they just, jumpstart the motor or something. Well, no, we've been taught wrong about it all. The heart actually doesn't pump blood. The blood pumps the heart. The arteries are red and the veins are blue because the arteries put the positive charge into the body and the veins deal with the negative. There is iron in your blood. This is the reason why. You are electromagnetic in every way, shape, and form. And you have a toroidal field, actually two of them, that comes out of your heart and extends to wherever you want it to. But typically, 15, 20 feet, I suppose. It can be measured. And then you have another smaller one, and that's inside the middle of it. Now, this is the way our body is. When we say, oh, I get a good vibe by those people, or like I resonated with that idea, or oh, I was beaming that day. That's a light word. Light is higher up on the spectrum of electromagnetism, not autism. So what we're using this language for is because it's true. We are electromagnetic beings. We are the electricity that drives the meat suit. We're not the meat suit. Think about that for a second. This has taken me months in order to truly appreciate and get a grasp on. And I don't want you to miss this moment. Really think about this. You are the electricity that drives your suit, meat suit. You're actually the unification of the two. You could call that the soul. You could say the spirit is the life of the body, and the body is the material, and the combination of the two is the soul. You could. I'm not trying to remove anybody's doctrines. I'm just saying that you could say that. So this is a very important understanding to have if you wish to move forward esoterically, or just a different comprehension of your body. This is what the esoteric occultists have been hiding from us for so long, that we are electromagnetic. Any questions about that? Charlie Manson was a crisis actor. I hope he was well paid for what we had to endure. Yeah, definitely probably a hoax. He was trying to make the hippies look like crazy Satanists or some shit. Yes, Charlotte. Jesus did say have the salt, which is electromagnetic currency. Oh, I'm sorry, Maliv Cocktail I hope I wasn't boring. I guess he's just tired. He said yawn. I saw that. Shout out Plutonic, the spirit, left brain, the soul, the right brain. Brilliant. It's a very good way to put it. I say usually, though, the ego is left brain, and then the soul is right brain, and the spirit is the electricity that flows within us that connects them. This is the reason why they want to calcify the pineal gland. The pineal gland helps facilitate the communication between the two hemispheres. Um, the left brain really is it's ego. That's where your ego is, your rational thought, your words, your language, your math. All of that's rational, reasonable. It's linear. Is your left brain. The right brain is abstract. This is where God is talking to us from. It is, I've been saying for a while now, there's a fine line between schizophrenia and synchronicity. And I know that sounds like a huge gap, but it's actually not. If you start getting tons of synchronicities, you're seeing 111 and 333 all the time, or 1234, all these sequences of numbers, or certain things that happen at the same time every day, or certain events that occur in a certain way. These are just called synchronicities. And what it is now the New Age people say it is your higher self communicating with you through the universe. You could say that. Or you could say that it's your right brain arranging your behavior and actions and thoughts in a way that it's going to bring more significance to a proper path. So your right brain doesn't have the function to be able to speak to you. This is why people kind of go crazy when some people go crazy if they're very egoic when they take LSD or certain psychedelics, some even sativa, marijuana, because those psychedelics open up the communication between the two hemispheres, and the right hemisphere is it's non-verbal. So you begin to get these spiritual awakenings, so to speak, like things start to communicate to you in different ways. Plutonic, he asked, have you had any weird experimenting with binaural beats? No. Actually, I've had only positive and beneficent experiences with it. Now, I haven't gone too deeply into those Kundalini, the ones that promise like this full blown Kundalini thing. And see, I understand the isochronic tones and I was even messing with rife frequencies recently because I have some injuries that I'm trying to deal with. And the stuff is hyper effective. But binaural beats can get you into a state of hemisync, is what they call it, which is the two hemispheres are synced to a particular frequency. You can entrain your brain to a different frequency. This is how, like, if I want to go to a gamma state, which is the highest of, you've got, alpha, beta, delta, theta, and then you got gamma, which is the highest. You can actually listen to a gamma frequency pulse in binaural, and you can get your brain up to that. You can essentially entrain your brain to those frequencies, and then your brain actually functions in a state of flow, and it's phenomenal. It really works. It's just you have to understand it first, I think, because if you don't know what you're looking for, if you sit down and be like, well, they say it works, here, let me sit down and do it. It's so subtle at first that you're not going to be able to identify what's working and how it's working. You have to understand the system itself. Um, so so yeah, they definitely work and work very well. And synchronicity may be very much linked to natural law. Like I think there are cosmic principles that operate on us. I don't think we operate with. I think they operate on us in a way that is beyond our small 3D comprehension. Um, and who's your flatty asked, how do you know what you need to do in this life? And no, I actually don't have children. And I'm maybe in 8 years I might decide to do so, and I'm grateful that I don't have that responsibility concerning the rapid changes that I see in society right now. But what I think the way to find out what we need to do, so to speak, is you just go within. You know, There's a guy named Dr. Michael Heiser, which I have or had rather, a tremendous amount of respect for this man. He, it's funny, Rob Skiba took his information because he did this wonderful presentation about the cosmology of the ancients. So he showed what the Semitic people believed their cosmology was. It was flat, there was a dome, it was this and that. And so what Dr. Heiser did is he, and by the way, he's got two PhDs, one in Hebrew, I think the other one in Greek, very well qualified. He ended up doing this great presentation, and Rob Skiba used it in order to show the biblical flat earth perspective. Heiser got really pissed, tried to take it down, but Rob Skiba got to keep it because it was fair use. Now, Dr. Heiser has this vendetta, this just downright vendetta against Gnosticism. Now, the issue of Gnosticism, this goes back to the Council of Nicaea concerning the divinity of Christ. The Gnostics believe that flesh is sinly, that flesh is flesh, it's sinly. So God did not come in the flesh. He came as himself, as a being that looked like flesh. So he was higher divine. This is how it was able to do what he did, and this is what the Gnostics believed. That's it. Council of Nicaea asserted that no, it was God in the flesh because we needed the blood. It was this and that, and it was the opposite essentially. The only reason we ever heard of Gnosticism before 1953 was because of what the church deemed as the great heresy of Gnosticism. They wrote several treatises on these back in 300 to 500 AD after Constantine. And the reason why is because they had to address it. Gnosticism was like spiritual Christianity. There's some who argue that Jesus was a Gnostic, which is exceptionally blasphemous to some biblical literalists, but I don't see why you couldn't say that. A Gnostic is a person who just goes within, rather than going into a book, rather than going into doctrine or religious institutions. They turn their attention inward, feel the subtle energies, ask the questions, and they are shown the answers. It's called gnosis. It means inner knowledge. Dr. Heiser says that Gnosticism is the religion of the fallen angels. I was totally just blown away that this is actually a trope. It's a meme that exists within Christian researchers. And to me, that. Anyways, the point, though, I was trying to make, it was less than 5 minutes, is if you go within, that's it. That's all you need to do to find out what you. This is study archetypes. Carl Jung and his perspective of the individual and how archetypes are expressed throughout not only the pantheons, but the stories of mankind. You have the warrior, the king, the magician, and the lover. These are the masculine archetypes that exist. And there is a brilliant 40-page book it's called Warrior, King, Magician, Lover. Find it. Just search that term, find the PDF, read it. Everybody, even females, read this. It was written by several doctors who were essentially Carl Jungites, however you want to put it. They believed that his psychology was best. And it's almost like pick your character and play it. You are the hero of your own story. This is the hero's journey. Pick the archetype that you know you can fulfill. And you do it with your creator. You do it by going within. And that's how I think this works. And I think that's how you find your that's how you find your higher function, I think. I don't know if that answers all your questions about individuation, but yeah, it's And Michael Heiser has great information. That's the thing. I'm not trying to sway anybody away from the man. I still watch his lectures. I'm just shocked that he would make such a claim and go so far to promote that. He, I don't know, and you look at his work on Skywatch TV and those guys over there that are just selling books. They're not trying to. Anyways, I don't want to get into it. Skywatch TV has been so dismissive of geocentricity and flat Earth, and they've been so dismissive of the September 23rd thing, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, excellent term. IPS, we can thank for him injecting that. Cognitive harmony. I've been wanting to say something about this for a long time. No, Dave, I have not. I'll go check it out here in a moment. Cognitive harmony, the opposite of cognitive dissonance, is so important. It is so, so important. And it's not hard. It's very simple. It is just being able to question what we've been told, being able to identify what. See, I was put on that path myself. When, of course, you know my story, when Flat Earth came around, I of course, had cognitive dissonance to it. And I remember speaking to I was visiting my father, my stepdad, and I was telling him about it. And all I did was I said, there's some crazy people on the internet who said the Earth is flat. And he got so pissed. He slammed his hands on the dinner table. He says, damn it, you're going too far with these conspiracy theories. Because he knows that I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist in a lot. Well, I'm a conspiracy analyst. Let's get it right, guys. But anyway, so I saw his reaction, and it was so guttural and immediate and vitriolic that I was like, wait a second. There's no way an idea that he's never explored or ever thought about can have such an effect on a person. And then I went, wait a second, this has an effect on me. What is it that this is? And what I had to reconcile is how much I didn't know about something I professed I did. That's it. That's how you get to cognitive harmony. It doesn't matter what it is at the end of the day. It really doesn't. As long as you go back and find out. My path is so valuable because geocentricity is honestly one of the most important aspects of it. It's arguable, it's philosophical, NASA uses geocentric coordinates for all their satellites, it's in all their documents, it's so easy to show. But philosophically, that brought me back to my creator. It did. Just the notion of geocentricity is that, oh wow, there is no evidence that we aren't the main stage, because we are the main stage. This is the only stage in this realm, is this Earth. Whatever the fullness of the shape is, it doesn't matter. To me, I know a lot of people don't like hearing that, but to me, it's not. And it triggers certain people, and some people can't handle it because they have cognitive dissonance, essentially, or they wish to lash out at. They don't see the value in exploring alternative ideas. They think it's so silly to think about something differently. And and that's fine, whatever. Like I said, read my disclaimer. I'm not here to mess with anybody's reality tunnels. If you're listening to me right now, just mute me or shut me off if you can't handle your own reality filter. It's just that simple. I'm not responsible for that. Whatever defense mechanisms anybody needs, then whatever, employ them. I don't care. But there is no stupid idea. There's no such thing as a stupid idea. Ideas can be imaginative. Ideas can be explored that have no relevance to reality and still be valuable. Maybe the flat Earth, people can make it into a book series, like 3-part book. sell a bunch of copies and get people into a new type of science fiction. Who knows, dude? I don't care. I'm not out here for that. I'm not out here for that. So I appreciate everybody coming out. Um, it was a strange hangout. I was kind of, honestly, I might even stay up till sunrise and go down to the lake or something, because it's just it for me. I've been studying this for the past 6 months. I do see this as a significant marker. Um, I think we're going to see accelerations in political um, problems. I think we're going to see uh, plans moved upon concerning greater Israel, concerning peace in Israel. Surprisingly, for the first 3.5 years, I think that we're going to see. Unfortunately, I worry that there's going to be negative changes in America. We can see it kind of brooding. You know, they push this alt left versus alt right. You've got this deep state versus the Trump loyalists, and you know, it's really interesting. I've never seen such dramatic and radical change to a society at all than what I've seen in the past year and a half. Um, Trump is. It just blows my mind. Bush Jr. got into office twice. 9/11 happened under his watch. The biggest terrorist attack under America happened under his watch. Yet he flipped it and inverted it and made it as if he was a hero in the situation, and he defended us from all the terrorism. And then the administration lied us into two endless wars, and there's over 5.3 million brown people who are dead because of it, and something like 8,000 of our soldiers. And it how come nobody freaked out over that? How come nobody like freaked out over, I don't know, for a guy like Trump to get in, and it's just like this anti-cult of personality, or it's like a cult of personality, but then on the other side it's like an anti-cult where they've got their own cult, but it's so weird, it's so backwards. And I think just everybody pray, go within, talk to your friends and family. Now is the time to say, if you see something, say something. And I mean that in the sense of, if you see darkness, point out darkness. Shine your light in the dark. And guess what? It goes away. It scurries away. That old energy is done. They will scamper and they will try and they will grasp and they will hold on as tight as they can. But at the end of the day, this book has been written. And it doesn't matter if you're a Hindu. It doesn't matter if you're, and I'm saying the book, they've got the Satya Yuga, which is 1,000 years of peace. Jesus has got his 1,000 years of peace. You've got certain esoteric groups that think it's the golden age of Horus. And then you've got all these other 1,000 years of peace. This is written. It is written. But we've got some time to go through. This is the change of the age, is what it seems like. So just make sure that you stay vigilant, and you love your family, and you love love yourself. You go within and you learn everything you can. There's a quickening happening right now. Knowledge is pouring out onto this earth. Time is speeding up for those connected to the Creator. Really, this is important. However it plays out, I don't know. Whatever filter it's supposed to fit in, I don't know, guys. But I do think this is important. I think it's a marker. I think it's very important. I get the hunch that it's a Jesuit psyop, whatever. Like, it's Jesuit futurism. Please, and please, if you are a Christian biblical literalist and you're listening to me right now, bless you and your family, and God, I love you I absolutely do. And I'm sorry I don't have the same faith that you do concerning certain aspects of your belief system. I have a faith in my creator and through the message of Christ and who Christ was, what Christ is, absolutely. But please research Jesuit futurism. Just do it. It's not a lot, but this will change. This can possibly, and like I said, I'm not trying to change anybody's reality filters or tunnels. I'm not trying to do anything like that. I just want you to be as informed as possible. It is just information. It cannot hurt you to learn about where these ideas came from. The eschatology before 1593, before Ribeiro wrote this doctrine, was preterism, historicism. Historicism is what it was called. Uh, all day long. That's what it was. So, what changed? How did it change? Whose hand was in it? Why did it do it? You know, the guy who wrote the Left Behind series, bigger book empire than Harry Potter, 33rd degree Freemason. I think he went to even a Jesuit college. Can't remember though. But the other guy who put it out in '73, he was a Jesuit. Well, he was a Jesuit trained gentleman. Um, so if you know what ecumenicalism is, I think the Christian folks would. Let me give you the definition. Ecumenicalism is a concept that the church started to apply back to the Protestants, which is worldwide Christian church. What they're trying to do is they're trying to bring the churches back into the fold. What my opinion is that they have used Jesuit futurism as a backdoor ecumenicalism. So think about that for a second. They used Jesuit futurism to bring the Protestants back over to the Catholic doctrine, which is funny enough, they don't even follow. There's no Catholic sitting outside right now waiting for the sun to rise. This is their doctrine, yet they don't believe it. That should be another identifier that there's something. Now, I know that there are many ways to dispute that and be like, well, that's because they don't see. This is his plan. You see, look, I understand this. I'm not trying to like disturb your faith in anything. It's just please know what it is that these. Well, just know what these things are. Preterism and futurism. Who wrote it and why? That's it. That's all I can say. Anyways, I love you. I love you guys all. Yes, Vatican II. There was takeover in '86, I think. Oh yeah, let's go over that a little bit. We got the first Jesuit Pope, good old Argentinian. You know, he was in charge down there with the genocide that was going on. The hidden hand. I love those pictures of him with the hidden hand. Good old first Jesuit Pope. Let's think about that for a second. They're not allowed to be popes. It's kind of built into both sides of the doctrine. Like on the white pope side and the black pope side, they're not supposed to be able to cross. One's the military order, and the other is the the public face religious order. So it's been a military coup, you could argue, with him in. Also on September 11th, I believe it was, he injured his left eye. He bumped his head on the Pope Mobile, and blood was splattered onto his white Pope outfit on his left shoulder, but his left eye was darkened. It was both above the eye and below. So looking at it, it was a darkened left eye. Now we're going back to Horus. These people are pagans. They are following a different script that aligns with this script, so to speak. And so just keep your eyes out. Like, that's all I'm saying. It's disturbing how you just research the Inquisition and research, the real witch burnings and all this stuff is so disturbing, what they've done to humanity. And they stomped out the light. Last time the light came back, 2,000 years ago, when Jesus was walking around. What did Jesus say when he was walking on water and his people were there? Ask yourself that. When they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're walking on water. Jesus said, you could do this and more if you just had a faith in the mustard seed. Every single thing he said you will do and more. Laying on of hands. This is what we were brought here to understand, is that during this time of the age, it is a massive shift in consciousness. And now's the time. I think that's it. I think now is the time for that. So let's not let it get stomped out. Let's call the darkness, whenever we see it. But hey, much love and respect to you guys. Seriously, I can't thank everyone enough for wanting to listen to me. This is a very important topic. Very, very important topic. And I'm going to let this post. If you have any questions, please, yeah, just please post it. The turning of the stars. Please post it. But in the meantime, I've been working on a song. This isn't it, but working on a song. This is the sample, and I absolutely love it. I forgot the movie it's from, but listen to this real quick. The turning of the stars bring a time when my secret can give you immortality. But when that time is past, those fleeting minutes gone, the secret is worthless. Again, the stars unlock its power. The turning of the stars, my secret can give you immortality. But when that time is past, those fleeting minutes gone, the secret is worthless. Until once again, unlock it. Now my computer's glitching out because of the Hangouts. But yeah, the turning of the stars bring a time when my secrets can bring you immortality. But when that time is past, the fleeting moment's gone, the secret is worthless. Until once again, stars unlock its power. Oh, and Victoria, I wasn't talking to you at all. At all, at all, at all. No. Please don't misunderstand me. I hope I didn't come off that way. I was trying to speak as broadly as possible to people who may not have heard of futurism. And that seems to be a majority of people is all I'm saying. But Victoria, I trust your research abilities tremendously, and I hope you didn't take it that way. But anyways, seriously, I'm going to go ahead and get off here tonight. I'm going to be, my book is almost finished. I'm actually doing an illustration, doing the illustrations right now, and setting up a diet plan for the book. I really wanted to have it finished today. It was more significant, but I realized I had a bunch of art that I needed to get done. The writing is essentially done. It's all edited. Now I'm just putting together the images and the wholeness of it. I'm going to come full out, full bore. We're going to do all of the nutrition stuff. The book is going to come out, and several other platforms. Like I said, make this your jubilation, people. Now is truly the time. So much love and respect to you guys all, and just stay vigilant and stay focused.